crisis was in effect caused by a really quite wonderful idea of everybody should have home ownership. And then, of course, we did things to make it possible, which then couldn't be sustained. And the banks are, of course, at fault for that, but so is the U.S. government. Come on, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac had the veneer of being private, but everybody thought they were the U.S. government. So, of course, everybody believed that ultimately these bad loans, if necessary, would be bailed out. So I think there's plenty of fault to go around, if you will. My concern is that in trying to fix the system, for instance, requiring greater capitalization of the banks or new regulations, although most people that I talk with in that community, Dodd-Frank is a little bit scary because it's, of course, rules without, where the rulemaking is yet to be done, and nobody's really quite sure what the rules are really going to look like when they're done, and there's nothing worse than responding to uncertainty in that circumstance, so you're trying to cover all bases. So I worry that we, in trying to fix the problems of the past, the circulatory system, which is the international financial system, gets creaky. And then you don't get what you really need, which is the ability to stimulate the economy going forward. So I fully recognize that there were problems with the banks. I fully recognize that there were problems with Freddie and Fannie. But there's always a tendency to overreaction when you've gone through a big crisis. And I've always hoped that you would have a chance to sort of step back and once the smoke cleared and see what really needs to be done to change to prevent another systemic failure of that kind. When it comes to the Arab Spring, look, I would have rather that Mubarak made the reforms himself. I talked to him. In June 2005, I gave a speech at the American University of Cairo. We were calling for Egypt to lead the reform. I went to see Mubarak that morning so that he wouldn't be surprised. He said, give your speech. You don't know my people. They need a strong hand. And all that stands between the Muslim Brotherhood and Egypt is me, he said. Well, yes, because the policies of the authoritarians were policies where decent political forces couldn't exist in the public square. The radical, the Islamists organized in the radical mosques and in the radical madrasas, and there's a reason they're the best organized political forces today. And so we're going to have to live through that period. But it's also going to be very interesting to watch them, because if you look at President Morsi, for instance, in Egypt these days, he's suddenly confronting a Sinai in which the Egyptians, I think, thought that the only danger out of the Sinai would be to Israel. Well, it turns out it's their soldiers that get killed in the Sinai. So now you hear the president of Egypt, who's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, railing against the radicals in the Sinai. Anybody who governs Egypt has got first and foremost to worry about jobs for those people who were in Tahrir Square. So if your program is elect us and we will make